In this lesson, we're going to finish up our jump loop, and we're going to add a couple of animations between the running and jump mode, and we're also going to address a couple of gameplay changes. So let's get into the gameplay changes right away. I'm going to change the game speed here, amp it up to 4 for the initial speed. We also need to shorten the leap between the platforms, so we're going to change the range here from 1 to 3 instead 2 to 4, and then we can start. So when you publish to devices, it's really good to know the target frame rate, or at least try to run in your preferred target frame rate. So that's what we're going to start off with. We're going to create an awake method, and within that we're going to do the application dot target frame rate and force to set that to 60, just to try to make sure we run as close to 60 as we can to get a nice and smooth animation. And we're now going to create an in-game timer so we can change the pace of the game every 5th second. I'm going to create a float value here called start time, and when the game begins we're going to set that to the current time. The only thing we need to do now is within the fixed update. There we're going to set a small function here that checks if 5 seconds has lapsed. So I'm going to do start time, and then I'm going to subtract the time and do a modulus 5 there, and if that equals 0, 5 seconds has elapsed. So I'm going to do game speed and increase that by 0.5. That should be enough to get a smooth and nice acceleration of the game. So let's move back. We got an error here, and of course it's game speed, wrong variable. So let's press play and see if we can notice any increase of speed, and it seems that way, so it seems to work. What we want to do now is actually to animate the states. We need one more state here. We only have running within the animator, so I'm going to go ahead here and create a new clip, and it will be called jump. Within jump we need to add graphics, and actually spread 12 here. That's a jumping state, and as you can see the jump appeared here. So all we need to do now is to make transitions between the running and the jumping, and set conditions for the transition to take place. So I already created this parameter anim state, and what I need to do is just to set that when anim state equals 1 we're going to move over to jump, and when it equals 0 we're going to move over to running. And that's it for the animator menu. We're going to move back into the game, and we need to script what we just created. So let's move into the player handle again. And first off, we need to create a couple of variables here. We're going to create something called in air, which is a boolean that just keep track of if the player is in air or not. And it will start off as false. Then we also need an integer called anim state, That one will be the animator string to hash anim state. We also need a animator object, so that's the last one I'm going to write here. I'm going to do a private animator, and I'll call that just animator. So on start, this is the one we need to set to something. So I'm going to pull out the component animator from this object. So it will be this dot transform dot get component. I'm gonna get the animator right there, and we're good to start changing the states. So the thinking behind this is whenever the guy is in air, we will set in air to true, and if the velocity of the y-axis will change to 0, then we know he's hit the ground. So I'm just going to do a if else here, and what I'm going to do here is just to check if the in air is false, and the velocity of the player. So I'm going to do rigid body here dot velocity, and we only need the y velocity here, and if that one equals or is greater than 0.05, we know that he's in motion. So if he wasn't in motion and now he is, something has changed, so we're going to change the animator as well. We're going to set integer to anim state 1. That will change to the jump animation. Also, once he's in air, we can change the in air parameter to true. So we're going to do the same thing in reverse. I'm going to do else if, and I'm just going to copy this because we just can change this to if it's in air and equals 0. He then has hit the ground, and we can address this as in air is false, and the anim state will be 0. So we should be able to run it now. I'm just going to press play, and we're going to try to jump, and the guy is jumping. We still can cheat a lot because we still can just tap a lot of times and the guy won't fall down. So we want to disable the double tap here for the gameplay to be really good. So I'm just going to create a function in this one that says that if we already are in air, we can't jump again. So I just need to do the if in air, and then we're just going to return. I have one more feature to add to the jump loop, and that will be a jump press feature. So if we press the screen, the guy will do multiple jumps once he hits the ground. So I'm going to create a public variable here, since we need to implement it from the input controller as well. So I'm going to do a public bool jump press, and that'll equal false. And if jump press is present when we hit the ground, we're going to jump again. or if jump press is true. So every time we press jump, jump press will be true, and every time we'll release our interaction, it will be false. So I'm going to set true here, and I'm going to go into the input controller, and once we handle interaction and the interaction is false, then we can go in here and set the player dot jump press equals false. Let's move over to the scene, press play, see if we can hold the bottom. Yeah, he will jump a lot, and if you release, he stop. So that will be all for this lesson. For the next lesson, we're going to create a couple of in-game objects.